Hey, we are back, late but back.
Right.
So we are at Nerdabout. I'm Corey Thompson, co-owner of Above Board TV, co-host of Board Game Insider, author of the interview site Dice Tower Dish. And did you know that Vienna has the oldest still operating Ferris wheel in the world, originally opened in 1897?
I knew it was old. I didn't know it was the oldest. That's cool.
Oldest.
I'm Daryl Andrews, freelance board game designer living in Toronto, Canada. I also do consultant work for Maestro Media. And did you know snow globes were invented in Vienna in 1900 by Erwin Percy? And their shop opened in 1903, and it's still open today.
That's awesome. Well, welcome to Nerdabout, episode 11. And for those of you with really astute minds and listening to the intro, we are doing Vienna. Nerdabout is brought to you by the good folks at Lucky Duck Games. Delivering soon from Lucky Duck and Van Ryder Games is a cooperative occultic app-driven adventure, The Dark Quarter. Keep an eye out for the Kickstarter gems Unconscious Mind and Andromeda's Edge, which are now going into retail through Lucky Duck. And Unconscious Mind should have copies for sale at PAX. So This is a show about travel, food, culture, and general insanity. We are three good friends within the board gaming industry who, through interaction, iteration, and idiocy, have ended up in some absolutely amazing cities. So, unfortunately, as you can tell, we are two hosts today.
Two.
Beneeta is under the weather, so we're going to go ahead and carry on with our live show.
Yeah, we miss you, Beneeta. But the show must go on. Corey, tell me what you've been up to lately.
Oh, it's been crazy. I had friends over the weekend. I had one of the architects of the board gaming industry, Peter Atkinson, was at the house, and we did fancy schmancy stuff. We did a big giant wine tasting, and then we did the French Laundry.
Yeah.
So it was really amazing. When are we going to do a travel episode about Napa? I think I'm prepped.
Yeah, I think you got to do a little research. I don't know if you've been to all the coolest places.
No. I'm working on it.
What
you been up to?
Well, it's actually been a really busy week in a good way. Danielle Reynolds came up to celebrate American Thanksgiving in Canada. And so that was really lovely and gave us an excuse to round up some people for some fun meals. We did an Ethiopian dinner.
I love it. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, so that was super yummy. Went to one of Eric Lang's favorite spots. I hosted some gaming at my place on the Saturday. Then December 1st, started putting up Christmas decor, which I love, and my wife loves you can see all the wood.
I see it behind you. That's amazing.
Yeah. All the nutcrackers she collects and such. So excited about that. And it was my mom's birthday last night, so we went to Chris Roof's for a nice steak dinner.
Oh, that's lovely. That's fantastic. Oh man. So let's talk about a little bit of geeky stuff in Vienna. Things to do a little on the nerdy side.
Absolutely. And some of this, I think we're going to go pretty fast because we're missing our co-host. But some of these, I just want to highlight. I mean, obviously, my wife is a psychotherapist. And so when we went to Vienna, it was a must hit to do the Sigmund Freud Museum. There's tons of amazing museums throughout Vienna, and I'm sure our guests will help us know about others. One in particular, you did some research on that has some cool exhibits. Again, am I going to try to say this, or are you?
I can probably do that. Except I've lost our script. It's the Kunsthistorisches Museum.
Yeah, I was not going to be able to sit anywhere close to that.
It's a really cool kind of varied art museum, and they have a lot of current active events going on. I originally found out about it because they did a Wes Anderson event back in 2019, 2018. So I was looking, and all the different events are just fascinating. It's a great museum for Rembrandts. For they have shipwreck displays of items taken off of shipwrecks. It's
Interesting.
just a really cool old school art museum with some really neat events and displays that come up periodically. Something to keep track of.
That's cool.
So one of the other ones, if you're marching around Vienna, Vienna is an enormous city and obviously a very old city. One of the regions that's really pretty geeky and pretty cool is the Blutgasse, which is Blood Street. This is one of the oldest and they say most haunted sections of Vienna. Feels very Middle Ages. Legend has it that in 1312, during the dissolution of the Knights Templar, the religious order, they were slaughtered in the streets in Blutgasse, and they say that blood just ran down the street.
Wow.
So it's
We
it's
get,
just that creepy vibe.
I like it. We're getting geeky and we're getting dark.
I know. Aside from that, Blutgasse just looks really old, narrow, Middle Ages. It's just a very cool region.
Right.
Other geeky things that are there, there's obviously a big comic and toy following going on. So just quick shout outs to Runch Comics and Toys, a great little store in Vienna. And Comics Hutterer, one of the kind of mainstay comic book stores in Vienna. Both really cool places to get your geek on a little bit.
Very cool. Well, one of my favorite things about getting to visit Vienna when I went there with my wife was actually getting to spend some time with Anita Landgraf, who is the original founder and owner of White Castle, which a lot of people don't know, but there are a few of these companies that are board game agencies. So they help bridge the gap between designers and publishers. And so I've known Anita now for a number of years. And so when I visited, Anita actually gave me a walking tour of the downtown, the central area. And then I also got to visit White Castle, the agency, which also I got to give a shout out to Andreas and Verena, both the IR and game developers in-house. And as we will talk later, they have been quite successful, including working alongside Julian, who is our guest, because one of the games they worked with and partnered with creator and publisher was Challengers, which actually was the 2023 Kennerspiel award winner. And if they weren't already lucky enough winning in 2023 with Challengers, they won again in 2024 with Magic Keys. So very exciting times. I think a couple of the games that really kind of got them on the map, or where people started realizing, I mean, way back in 2013, they had Coconuts and helped get that out in the world.
Oh yeah,
which I think is one of the most adorable dexterity games. I still like to say that they're flinging poop, not coconuts, but. I guess that's up for debate. And then a real home run was Smart 10, which has now been made into all kinds of versions and even as a TV show. So, and I believe that was back in 2017. So they've been doing it for a while. They have done some incredible success stories. But for me, that, you know, getting to see, you know, the space and place where that team works was really fun, just to see in action. And then I also got to give a shout out for a geeky thing. On our walking tour, we walked by this fine linen family business, which I'm going to try to say it. Here we go. It was Zur Schwabischen Jungfrau. I said it so super
Schwäbischen Jungfrau.
Okay, like that.
And I'm not doing it as well as our guest could either.
Our guest will correct us later, but it's cool. It was a linen, like high-end company that started back in 1720, doing like the linens for like royalty. And since then, you know, they've done like linens for like yachts and stuff like that. And of course, my wife stumbled in there and thought it would be cool to buy something from there. And I was very worried about the pocketbook, but it ended up not being crazy. And she got an awesome house coat from there. So that's our geeky purchase from a super old business, family business that now, is kind of renowned.
I love it. That's so cool. Also in Vienna, it's one of the world's few operating magic stores. I personally am absolutely fascinated with magic, and Vienna Magic is a really old establishment within the city, and it's just got all these amazingly cool things you can find in magic. You can find cards, tricks, instruction. And they have links to all sorts of shows that they'll do in-house. It's really an absolutely gorgeous little view on this side of the nerdverse. I absolutely love it.
So cool. I love magic shops. They're just geeky cool.
As a kid, I used to go in all the time. But without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce our guest.
Woo-hoo!
So this is welcome. Julian Steindiorfer is one of the owners of One More Time Games in Vienna, along with Roman Rybicka. And One More Time Games, like you heard, is the publisher of the 2021 title Rift Force and publisher of the 2023 Kennerspiel winner Challengers. And Julian actually let me hold the Kennerspiel and only charged me, I think it was 20 or 30 euro for holding it.
That's cool. You should have charged him more, Julian.
Oh, thank you so much for coming in. So, a little history. I went and visited Vienna 2 years ago before Essen, and Julian was nice enough to put up with me for a week and take me all over the city. So, all of the things I talk about are because Julian showed them to me and told me how wonderful they were.
That's cool.
It was a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
So why don't you tell us something absolutely fascinating about Vienna that we don't know? And this is an easy gimme question because I think we know very little about Vienna.
I think it's one of my favorite things about Vienna is the many board game designers we have in the city, and we're the city with the most Kennerspiel winners. So we have Wolfgang Warsch, we have Alexander Pfister, we have Andreas Pelikan, we have Johannes Krenner, Markus Lavicek. Like there is a lot of good games coming from this tiny city.
That's a good flex. I like it. Yeah. And you.
And Julian actually brought me to a design playtest at a coffee shop that was absolutely amazing. We had such a good time looking at all these designs, and I got to hang out with these people that I'd only known as names on boxes. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's really nice to play test with these great minds and get baffled all the time, like how good their ideas are, and you're sitting there and getting their feedback, and suddenly they created a new game from the feedback alone, and you're thinking, I need to go back to the drawing board.
Right.
That's just cheating. Well, I remember you were telling me about a little bit of a misspent youth going to the clubs and having fun in Vienna. I was wondering if you had any insight to us about what it was like growing up in Vienna, what the music scene was like. I have to assume it's nothing but Mozart, right?
You have to imagine like it's not normal clubs. It's like everything is gold covered and everybody is wearing suits, and we're listening to Mozart and drinking expensive wines. No, funnily, the Kunsthistorisches Museum you mentioned before, I once was working in an advertising agency and we hosted a rave in there.
Wow.
So I still remember my former boss putting on a disco ball on one of the balconies, and it crumbled from there. And I was thinking like, okay, this is going to be a special night.
Well, I remember you took me down the canal, and when we were there, just the street art and graffiti and the clubs that we could see, it looked like it was amazing. Everything looked so artistic, and it looked like it must have just been crazy growing up there.
Yeah, Vienna is a nice city. It's not comparable to Berlin in terms of like electronic music, but there are some very enjoyable places, and it's one of the biggest German-speaking cities in the world. So there is some art action going on.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, I was incredibly impressed and wish I got to spend more time in Vienna. And obviously, one of the things when visiting a city is trying to find out good spots to eat and drink, and where to hang out. And so I'm curious, what are some favorite restaurants or places to grab a drink in Vienna that you'd recommend?
I think a lot of lists would start with a Würstelstand, with a hot dog stand, where it's not hot dogs, but it's all these different kind of sausages.
Sure.
You could pick out a few good ones, but you can go to most of them, because most of them you will visit drunk and hungry, and then everything tastes good.
Sure. Everything tastes good.
I don't think we've ever had one of these Nerdabouts where we didn't talk a little bit about hot dogs.
We like our hot dog. It's a go-to, it hits the spot.
It's Wurstabout.
Wurstabout. Oh, man.
I think the first restaurant I have to mention is the one my brother owns. It's called Bruder, which is German for brother. So it's basically a restaurant named after me.
Nice.
So
of course.
why couldn't I mention it? I also took Corey there. It's also one of these places where you can eat very good and get drunk very well.
I remember the restaurant was called Brother, and you kept saying it was your brother's restaurant. And I thought for the longest time that you were just fooling with me, that you were making it up, and it wasn't true. And then your brother actually came out, and I'm like, oh, okay.
That's awesome.
No, it was an absolutely amazing restaurant. We'll talk about it a little bit in the food section, but I don't care for fermented drinks and kombuchas, but the ones that I had at Bruder were amazing. It blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. Changed my mind about that whole world.
Yeah, they're doing a good job in bringing like all the produce that you find in and around Vienna onto the table, into your drink, and making you drunk. So that's their main business. Another restaurant that's quite good is Yola. It's a vegan fine dining place.
Okay.
It's also in the city center, and they have specialized in making vegan food that doesn't let you think about meat.
Right.
So they're doing a really good job. A small restaurant, but very fine.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Well, I mean,
cool.
You've named a bunch of amazing restaurants. I'm curious, on the flip side, when you're playing tour guide, what are some of your favorite sites, like places to take people so that they can see Vienna?
I think I would drop people in the first district and just let them wander around. There they can see a lot of good stuff, and you can pick in what time you want to go, and you will see Gothic, Baroque, modern, everything. But one of the most interesting places I sadly wasn't able to show it to Corey is Wotruba Church. It's on the outskirts of Vienna. It's a brutalist church, so it's all concrete, and it's if you see St. Stephan and compare it to Wotruba Church, you're you're in a different time frame.
Right.
It looks so otherworldly, and
Interesting. Oh, that sounds cool.
I remember that.
Has a reason to go back.
Yeah, I remember that about Vienna. Walking down the streets and having to the left of me what looked like an apartment building that squatters had taken over, with anarchy signs and graffiti everywhere, and then a Gothic statuary next to it, and then a modern art weird ice cream cone sticking off in all directions. It just the contrast between everything going on was amazing. There was a lot of mornings I would just walk around and just see what was around where I was staying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were not walking enough. It seems like next time we need to do more walking.
No, you almost killed me. I did I am old and overweight, and you did 20 to 30,000 steps on me. So tell me, do what?
Another very nice place to visit is like the architecture of Friedensreich Hundertwasser. He's like very famous for these super organic,
Wow.
asymmetrical buildings, which are like try to redefine how we live, how we work.
Right.
It's also one of these. There is a huge trash burning plant in the upper districts of Vienna, and it's all created by him. And it looks a little bit like an artsy-fartsy tower from a fantasy game.
I like artsy fartsy. Both the artsy and the fartsy, I think, are quite interesting. So, okay, I'm going to put you on the spot here. What do you think is the best thing to do in Vienna for each of the 4 seasons? Start with winter. What is the best thing to do in winter?
From a personal side, I would always say eat something, and it would be ice cream a lot of times. So winter is good for ice cream. Spring is good for ice cream. Summer is good for ice cream sometimes. Autumn is also good for ice cream.
I do have to note that he took me out for ice cream.
Yeah. That's the answer for all seasons.
I believe it.
I think in winter you could go ice skating in front of the capital.
Oh, cool.
This would be nice. In spring, you could walk around the forests that are surrounding Vienna, and that are also called the green lung of the city. So there is a constant wind blowing from the outskirts. This is also why some people hate Vienna, because it's always windy.
Wow.
But it makes for a good fresh air.
Yeah.
In summer, you should go on Donauinsel, which is an artificial constructed island in the Danube River that is like flood protection, but it's like a very nice space for relaxing, swimming, art, dancing, everything. And in autumn, likely go to a Heuriger, which is some kind of local wine food combination where they sell their own wine they craft with some very low but very good foods combined.
Wow.
Oh, it sounds great. And I had a lot of local Austrian wines when I was there. And they were good. There was some strange ones, but there was some really good sweet wines that I liked a lot.
That tracks. It kind of surprises nobody. Well, Julian, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. Corey and I are going to share some additional, tips and tricks that we learned from our travels, but we're going to invite you back at the end where you can fact check us and tell us where we were wrong, but also join us for our final question where we'll hit you with back with your fact about the most spiel winners. We'll hit you with some questions about that. So thank you for your time, and we'll have you back real soon.
Looking forward.
We'll see you in a few. Oh man. So I think we're gonna head on into sites and hotels.
Yeah.
So I just want to bring up a couple of the super fancy hotels.
Of course.
Footnote, I did not stay there when I was in Austria. I stayed at a hotel that was very, very close to the One More Time studios. So nice. It was really great. But there is the Hotel zur Wiener Staatsoper, which is the hotel on the Vienna Opera House. It's a massive, fancy boutique hotel. It's been operating for over a century, and it's situated, like the name says, right next to the Vienna State Opera. And it's also right next to St. Stephen's Square, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But this has been open for over a century. They totally remodeled it in 2024. It's got that European Vienna, old 1700s, 1800s look. Absolutely gorgeous.
Very cool.
But even that pales a little bit in comparison to the Grand Hotel Vienna. This is absolute luxury. You can see it from a mile away. Giant hotel, originally opened in 1870. It was the absolute center of Austrian socialites.
Right.
Strauss, the famous composer of waltzes, actually celebrated his 50th Jubilee in 1894 in the Grand Vienna Hotel.
Wow. Yeah,
So,
they're massive. I remember just seeing the places you're mentioning around kind of the ring road, and they're enormous hotels.
it just speaks to the history of Vienna, the architecture. If you can, they're just absolutely magnificent places to stay. Now, we mentioned it a couple times, but there's the St. Stephen's Cathedral, which is an absolute fixture in Vienna. It's a massive Gothic cathedral that was construction on it started in 1137, but it wasn't completed until the late 1500s.
Right.
It's known for its multicolored tiled roof with intricate patterns. It has 256 stairs from the bottom to the top of the tower, and just the scale when you go inside and see the actual church inside, the decorations are intense and everywhere, and the room is so absolutely massive and awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
It's religious or not, it's a building, a fixture you just have to see. It's amazing.
It's definitely an iconic spot. It is free, so anyone, when you're traveling, you can go there for free. It does cost a little bit to go up the North Tower. They only accept cash, so a little friendly tip there. But yeah, you can take the North Tower and see incredible views. But it is a very awe-inspiring location. When I stayed in a hotel right across the street. Literally, the window from my hotel room was staring right at St. Stephen's. I stayed at the Do & Co. Hotel in Vienna, which also, shout out, I had an awesome sushi meal there. And they also had and that view. You could just stare at. I mean, I literally, like, each morning I would do breakfast in there and just be inspired by the beauty. It was a Marriott property. It no longer is. There's lots of incredible Marriott properties that I could shill, but I'm thankful that I got to stay there one time on a trip with Tanya, and it was incredible. But beyond the hotels, I mean, there are some incredible, massive, palaces. Tell me about the famous ones, Corey.
So my hotel was right across the street from Schönbrunn Palace, which is, it's somewhere between a palace and a castle. It is massive. Picture a period 1700s movie where everybody is in the 1700s outfits in front of the largest palace you've ever seen. And this is what Schönbrunn looks like. It has over 1,000 rooms. There were emperors born there, many emperors born there. And it's so big that there's different regions of Schönbrunn that you talk about.
Right.
My personal favorite in the back are the gardens. And these are your, Renaissance gardens. There's pathways. They keep up with them. So the flowers and all the patterns are amazing. So big, bigger than most parks that I've been to.
Right.
And then all the way at the back of the gardens is a region called the Gloriette. And this is an architectural addition to a massive garden. It's from the
Right.
French, means little room. And it's kind of a building, but also kind of just show off walls with that elaborate carving all in the marble.
Incredible.
And the Palace Garden Gloriette is the largest gloriette out there, built in 1775.
Wow.
And just looking at the statuary, it's up on a hill, so when you climb up to the gloriette, you can look down into the whole city.
Right.
And it's something that has to be visited. It is just mind-boggling, the scale, the size, the beauty of it, the statuary, the gold leaf. It's
Right.
I'm at a loss for words to actually describe everything about this crazy garden fixture.
Right. No, it's a enormous experience, and it's hard to even understand from a North American perspective how much rich history there is, and just how the grounds have so much going for it, including they have a zoo,
Oh yeah,
they have like greenhouses, like the Palm House, where there's like tons and tons of beautiful flowers and gardens and areas to walk through.
yeah. It is absolutely incredible. The zoo, by the way, this is technically in the garden. It's over at the side of the garden of Schönbrunn Palace. So all of these are parts of the palace.
Right.
Um, yeah, the scale just has to be seen. Another big one to go visit is the Hofburg, which used to be the principal imperial palace
Right.
in Austria, right in the center of the city, built in the 13th century. Again, it's got a giant horse statue in the middle of a courtyard with a curved building around, and it's been the seat of government for a while. So it's something that just has to be visited. It faces the Heroes Square, and again, it's all the iconic, technically neo-Baroque architecture and statuary that you expect in an old European city. It's a must visit.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember walking by, and also while doing the walking tour with Anita, one thing that stood out to me was the Anker clock. It's actually like
Huh.
a giant kind of musical box that was built into, I think, like an insurance company's building way back. Originally, I think it was built around 1901 or something like that. I'm not sure the exact date. But I remember when checking it out, actually, when they originally built it, it had 12 figures, and 12 every hour another figure would come out and another song would play. And so this music box, but they turned it off because originally the last song was the anthem, and it was kind of a touchy subject to like have the anthem. And so I remember they turned it off for a bit. Fast forward, it survives World War II, and someone just turns it on at a certain point, but it gets some damage. And in the repair process, they decide to change the last song away from the anthem, and they make it the song for creation. And
Wow.
again, it takes some damage and some fixes, and finally in the late 70s, they changed out the actual mechanical version for just a sound system. But it's still, to this day, you can go, and on the hour, you can see the different songs. Now it's a recording from a Viennese church organ, so it still has the organic sound of the original, but it's a recording. And I believe at noon it shows all 12 characters roll through real fast instead of. So they have just
Cool.
great people from Austrian history coming out matched up to different songs.
Well, Austria is definitely, and Vienna specifically, is one of the cities we've done where I feel like there just is not and never will be enough time
No.
to talk about everything that's there. But we cannot do Austria without talking for a long time about the food.
Yeah.
food in Austria is incredible. It's such a mix. A lot of people don't know, but French croissant actually originated from Vienna. And so bakery, pastry, there's so many things that are characteristic Vienna.
Yeah.
So why don't you start us off with one of the classics?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the go-tos and the first thing that I felt like I needed to eat when I got to Vienna was Wiener Schnitzel. I, for the last while had been living in Canada in a city called Kitchener, but it was formerly, they hosted the second biggest Oktoberfest. And so especially the restaurants near me, I had some pretty great schnitzels, but I needed to have, the OG, the original gangster schnitzel. So I went to Witania Vig Mueller, which has an enormous schnitzel. I mean, it was bigger than the plate. That place was established way back in 1905. I even ended up we got a soup as well, and I could purchase the pot that it was in, and I brought that home for my mom for a previous Christmas gift. And I have a really great tip, because when we lined up to get in there, the line was like 3 hours. And what I found out is if you just go down the alleyway of the restaurant, there's a Wigmuller back door entrance with a little seating area, maybe only 10 seats, but they don't line up. It's just boom, like you walk in. And so
that's amazing.
I found that out just reading online, giving that tip to people. If you can, just walk down the alleyway and get into the Backstrauss Wigmuller. The other main go-to spot that often people associate with schnitzel, again, I'm going to butcher how you say it, but Planschuta, specifically the Wohlseal location, which is the downtown central. Thank you. Location. They have a great schnitzel. What I would actually say is even more important to have there, which I loved, was, again, I'm going to say this wrong, but the Teffelspitz, which is like a beef broth, where they do the beef like pretty well done, but then they throw in carrots and veg and root vegetables and such, and have this really rich broth that they even put bone marrow in, and it was nicknamed the Emperor's favorite. So that soup, especially, I thought was incredible.
And just in case people don't know, schnitzel is a piece of meat, traditionally veal or pork, that is pounded flat, breaded, and fried. And the word Wiener Schnitzel is just German for schnitzel from Vienna. Yeah. So in America, we tend to use Wiener Schnitzel a lot. There's a chain, fast food chain. We use the word, don't really know what it means, but it's just schnitzel from Vienna.
Yeah. And the irony of the origins is like it was just taking a thin cut and hammering it down. And then early on, the first name was actually veal schnitzel. And then over time, it got so associated with Vienna that it became the Wiener Schnitzel, which Wien we know is Vienna in native tongue. A few other spots that I think we want to highlight. One in particular that I love, a place called Glacius Biesel. A beautiful patio area restaurant, very classic Viennese menu. I'm just going to highly recommend get the dumpling on sauerkraut as an app. Get the beef goulash, which people will often associate goulash with like a Hungary, but it's actually a very traditional meal in Vienna as well. And then I would suggest ending your meal with a pancake, which is actually a little more like a crepe. It's very thin with an apricot jam. That was
that's lovely,
incredible. They also had a great schnitzel there, which obviously we got schnitzels everywhere because we're big fans. But yeah, that would be another place I'd recommend. I know, Corey, you had a good Turkish spot.
Well, yeah, it's fascinating, but Vienna is such a big city, and it has so many immigrant groups in the city, and the Turkish food is huge in Vienna, and everything from little stands selling doner, all the way up to fine restaurants. And I went to the Kent restaurant, which served me Turkish tea and lovely. I had dolmades, stuffed grape leaves. I had sliced meat on rice. It was amazing. I absolutely love Turkish food, and Kent restaurant is one of the best that I've had. If anybody's seen the really ridiculous picture of me on Board Game Geek front page with a little teacup and my pinky out, that's at the Kent restaurant.
Okay. Good to know. I mean, definitely the Turkish-German roots, as we were even hearing from our guests, has really influenced Vienna. A fun fact, talking about kind of that relationship, I love that you found this, Corey. In Vienna, the hot dog is named after the city of Frankfurt, hence when we say a Frankfurter, while in Frankfurt, it's named after Vienna, hence a wiener, the wien. So we as we mentioned earlier, and we talked about it in our time with our guests, obviously we're big fans of hot dogs and late night foods, and just a nice tasty spot. I want to highlight a couple. One, Würfelstein Leo, started in 1928, is still run by the son of the original food stand. I recommend ordering the Big Mama, which is a big platter with some sausage, with a ton of different dips like mayos and ketchups and currywurst and such. So that I would highly recommend. The other that I will mention is Ali's Wurst.
Alles Wurst, everything sausage. Alles Wurst.
It's a great spot. I especially want to shout out, and again, I'm butchering how you say it, but Kaiserkrainer, thank you. It's kind of a mix of sausage that they've coined with cheese injected into the sausage, and so that's one of the best spots that I ever had. They also, have other things, but the truffle chips were great. Get a nice tall beer, and they also serve beef tartare, which was a surprise, but it was super.
I had it offered at a lot of restaurants in the Vienna area. It was always really amazing.
Yeah, the other spot, kind of like if you're looking for a grill or you want a sausage, or you can get a really great smash burger, is the Exo Grill. And I also have to give a shout out. They had some Fritz Cola in that fridge. So I was
That's your favorite.
And they also had frozen Aperol, which was really great. So that's kind of a few spots that you can grab, some grilled food, cheap, affordable. But obviously we need to get into, we already kind of mentioned it, but we have a whole bunch of places to recommend when it comes to the coffee culture, the pastry culture.
Oh, it is enormous. Pastries are huge in Vienna, and they do them well.
Yeah.
One of my favorites was Coffee Havelka, which had apple strudel and Buchtein, which is like a sweet roll with jam in it, melange, so like a cappuccino. It originally opened in 1939. It was the Chatham Bar in 1906. It closed down during World War II, but then reopened in 1945. And it's been just a meeting spot for writers, critics, and through the 1940s. It was a hot spot for artists in the 1960s. But there's so many coffee pastry places all over the place.
Yeah, that was the first place that Anita took me to sit down and relax after.
Oh, lovely. I think I stole that one from you.
Oh, no. It was a lot of like, the reward for walking everywhere and having like a great walking tour is, getting to take breaks, coffee breaks. I mean, very much it's a Canadian culture thing too. A couple other spots that I would give highlight to, Coffee Pirates Bakery. They had a great cinnamon kind of bun with an orange zest that I thought was awesome. The most iconic one is Cafe Central, which a lot of people line up for, and you will see an epic line if you don't get there like kind of first thing in the morning. But it's a very fancy, ornate, beautiful kind of spot, the place to be seen, over the generations. Wow. The other spot that I would mention And this is more of a smaller spot. But as I mentioned at the start about Planschuda and Fig Mueller, there's a go-to dessert called the Kaiser Schorn, which is kind of this shredded pancake, usually made with a homemade plum sauce. And it's usually very expensive at those other places, but I would recommend Café de Mel as a spot where you can kind of get it as a cone. And I think that's a really great spot to get kind of
I'm going to throw out a couple more coffee places just because, I love coffee. So I got a chance on Julian's recommendation to go to Gotha Coffee, Gota. It's the #1 specialty cafe in Austria, according to a lot of sources. And the coffee was just sublime. Had like a little cake and a little coffee in it, and sat outside, just made my whole day. There's also Ernst, which is a little small batch bakery, and Paremi and Das Toe. There's too many to list. So these are all wonderful little pastry shops. And to be quite honest, like Daryl was saying, I think if you just walk around town and randomly go into a bakery, you will not go wrong.
Yeah. Pretty hard. Pretty hard to go wrong.
One of the other ones, there's a real big pizza culture in Vienna. And I just wanted to throw out there that Julian was nice enough to take me out to pizza. And it was, I believe, at Sophie Vera. And it was amazing. So fresh, so clean. It was absolutely lovely. We had such good pizza. On that list, there's also Disco Volante, Bussi Ciao, Randall. These are all really nice, more Italian style, very hot, very quick, fresh margarita style pies. But I had a lot of really interesting things on. I had one with heavy fish and anchovy that had the salty, savory thing going. Really nice pizza culture. Kind of on the other extreme from that, one of the other fancier restaurants that I went to was Buxbaum. Highly recommended. It's a Michelin noted restaurant, not starred, but noted. I went with the owner of Lucky Duck Games, Vincent Vergongien. He came down from Poland, and we had an absolutely lovely dinner outside in a little courtyard. It's kind of a hidden restaurant in a little side area. And we had local, this is where I had local Austrian wines, some of the white wines that have a higher mineral content and give a little almost saltiness mineral water note there, and some really sweet Austrian dessert wines that I hadn't experienced before. So Buxbaum, highly recommend restaurant. Really nice. Along those lines, Vienna definitely has a bunch of Michelin-starred restaurants that I haven't had the fortune to go to yet. The top of the list is Amador. Amador is a 3-star. I think it's the only 3-star in Austria. It's Juan Amador is the chef. It's just an absolute beautiful restaurant with a lot of creative, unusual dishes on there. So it's modern, sophisticated, using local ingredients. Really an interesting place. I've heard from a lot of people who've gone that it is one I regret missing.
Sure.
There's a few other Michelin-starred restaurants. Steierek is 2-star, and it's the oldest Michelin-starred restaurant.
I always see that in the top 50 restaurant list, always like the world's 50 best restaurants. And
well, see, this is just turning into our list of where we have to go. And then Mraz and Son. So this is Chef Mraz and his son, and this is a 2-star. Again, absolutely incredible restaurant in Vienna.
Yeah, no, those are definitely on my hit list. Definitely places that someday I'd love to visit. Another place that's on my hit list, I haven't been, but I've been really impressed and following along, is a restaurant called COP, which stands for Collection of Produce. The chef, the philosophy here is honest cooking, simple. Not a ton of tricks or surprises. Instead, it's all about celebrating the ingredients. They for the beginning part of having a restaurant grew everything that they use. Since then, just recently, they brought on about 12 to 15 local farms. And so everything is either from one of those farms or from their own collection. And they've just started a second location, I believe, called COP Up, which is a pop-up. And so there's another location to check out as well. But both of those, especially we named a bunch of, fried foods and different things. If you need to get some vegetables in your diet, that seems like a really beautiful place to go. Not that it's vegetarian. They serve meats and fish as well. But
sure.
They really celebrate those things.
And along those lines, Julian talked about his brother's restaurant, Bruder, run by Lucas Steindiorfer. I got to go, and it was just amazing. It showed me a whole other side of both food and drink. Bruder is best known as a cocktail fermenting bar. So I had homemade kombuchas that were incredible. They tasted nothing like any kombucha I've ever bought or had before. There were notes of ginger and all these really elaborate rosemary and herbal notes. Also had some absolutely lovely salads and vegetable dishes. It was really nice. I liked it a lot. It was in a little alleyway, so you can sit outside and enjoy people going by. Was a really cool place. Highly recommend.
Yeah, another place that I'd recommend if you want to catch a drink, and especially people watching and catching an incredible view, I would recommend Chez Bernard, which is a rooftop bar on the top of Hotel Motto. It's only the 8th floor, but because of the limitations on construction, so even though something like St. Stephen's is quite high up, everything else seems to be kind of 5-6 stories. So even on the 8th floor, you have this beautiful view of the city.
Nice.
That you can really take it all in. And I remember ordering the French Canadian. Obviously, it caught my eye. Menu, so I would recommend that. But there's amazing bars all over the place, incredible beers. But we would not be doing our show justice if we didn't also give Corey a little moment to wax poetically about the gelatos.
I know we're running late, but I love ice cream. I love ice cream so much. And gelato is a huge deal in Vienna. People get into fights about what is the best gelato place. And by the way, the best gelato place is Carlo Gelato. If you go, that's the one you have to go to. Fresh flavors, beautiful, rich, lovely ice cream. So good. Other gelato places of note, Ferrari Gelato, very, very good. Ice Greisler is really lovely. Traditional gelato, if you're in the Goldness Quarter, is Tuchlauben ice, is very traditional by the book. And then there's also Veganista, is a lovely vegan gelato place. And it's all of these, I had to taste everything. So they were all excellent. Excellent.
You're doing it for our protection, right? You're doing it. You only then recommend the safe spot. So I know you tasted a bunch of these with our guests. I'm curious because we want to hit them with our last question. So I'm going to invite Julian back on stage. Julian, thanks for being here. Is he right about these gelatos? What's your favorite? Is Carlo Gelato your favorite?
Carlo's the best.
Julian taught me well.
There is nothing like Corsica. It's a cream cheese with fig marmalade. It's like savory and sweet at the same time. And they make the real Italian gelato, like the one which is so heavy on cream that you get a heart attack, but it's worth it.
Well, what a way to go. Right?
I think I had 2 to 3 a day.
That was for all the steps. That was for all the steps, right?
But then I walked 400 miles, so it was all worth it.
You walked it up. Julian, did you hear anything that we need correcting on, or anything we were way off?
The spelling was off sometimes, but that's okay.
That's fair.
Austrian German is a special kind of German, and I think the one thing to add is maybe when you talked about goulash and Hungarian connection, I think it's often overlooked how huge Austria was when it was still Kaiserreich, and like it was like a humongous combination of different cultures, and we still see this in our cuisine.
Yeah,
all the influences. There is no real Vienna without like all the people coming from all over the world.
Right. I mean, this was a hub of civilization. So much going on and learning from each other. I love that. So, all right. Well, we're going to hit you with our last question, Julian, but we're going to let you go last so that you can think about how you want to answer this. We understand this is maybe going to be tougher for you to answer because these people are your friends. But you mentioned before that your city is the biggest winner of Kenner de Jars. So we're curious if you could name, not yourself, who is your favorite game designer from your neck of the woods, from your area. And I'll put Corey on the spot first. I'll go second.
No.
and then we'll let you, Julian. We'll let you off the hook. You can't say yourself, even though maybe that would be our answer. And Corey and me won't answer you either, so it's not awkward. We can't choose you. So Corey, who would you pick?
I have to go with Alexander Pfister. We got the opportunity to have some lovely meals with him. Such a delightful person. And at playtesting, I got to playtest some games with Alexander. But I also love how his games all feel like evolutions, one after the other. So Great Western Trail is, of course, his most popular game right now. And it led into Maracaibo, which felt like a little variation off of Great Western Trail. And I see that a lot with his games. Mombasa had hints of Hong Kong Blackout. And all of these just have a great Euro feel to them. I also really like his shorter, lighter games. Port Royale is a wonderful card game. And some of the ones that I think you're hinting towards, Daryl.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cheating here because I think of this as what games do I play the most or love the most.
Yeah,
Pfister would obviously be up there, but I'm going to give a shout out to Andreas Pelikan. Am I saying that right?
Yes,
I think so.
He co-designed with Pfister both Alice Sky and Broom Service. Those are a couple favorite games of mine. I remember actually playing at Tom Felber's place in Switzerland, Broom Service, just before it was announced as a Spiel des Jahres nominee, and fell in love with that game and have always been a fan. And then Isle of Skye, I have every expansion imaginable. I feel like it's a better Carcassonne, which is hard to do because I think Carcassonne is one of the greatest games of all time. So that would be my cheater pick. Did we buy you enough time, Julian, to be able to pick?
My answer is easy because I'm frenemy with Wolfgang Warsch.
Okay.
And so I have to mention him and his oeuvre. I think there is not many designers who were nominated 3 times at the same time for Spiel and Kennerspiel. He's like spanning so many genres, and he's always excellent in what he does. And he's always surprising with the mind, with Quacksalber, the Quacks, wavelengths. Yeah. And there is, I think, a lot of good stuff still to come.
Yeah, such a range, and a storm. Like when he showed up, all of a sudden it was like, "Whoa, how do you have all these amazing all at once?"
He came out of nowhere, and all his games were so different.
Yeah,
I mean, The Mind and Quacks of Quedlinburg were vastly different from each other, and both ridiculously interesting. I got to talk with him a little bit at that game designer night, and he was super sweet. So it was really nice. It was kind of a dream to just say hello.
absolutely. Well, I mean, I can't believe it, but our hour has come to a close. We
Absolutely
really
flown by.
The chance to chat with you, Julian, and
Thanks
your
for
advice.
having
And
me.
no, we really appreciate it. I'm going to ask you to do this, even though our guests are horrible at it. But please shamelessly plug. Where can people follow you? Give a shout out to some of your games so that people can support the creations you're making and follow you online.
I think on all social media platforms you can find us with the handle One More Time Games in one word.
Yeah.
But the one is a number.
Yeah.
And you will always hopefully find us on the top of the list because we have the one. You can check out our games challenges and Rift Force, and hopefully next year there will be a new interesting title coming out.
Okay, awesome. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic, man. You can find me at Above Board TV, at Dice Tower Dish, and one of the hosts of Board Game Insider. They're pretty easy to find. I've never been difficult to find online. So.
Absolutely. You can find me on, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, etc. Usually it's my name. And then I just want to give a plug for next week. We should be on. Hopefully, Beneeta will be feeling better for our next week's episode. Corey, where are we going next week?
The current plan is New York City with our guest Emerson Matsuuchi.
Yeah. So we may have to tweak the time. Traditionally, we're usually today we were 3:30 Eastern time, noon 12:30 Pacific. We have a little bit of a scheduling problem, so Corey may or may not be part of our episode next week. We're still figuring that out. Hacks and Plug is getting in the way a little bit, but we'll let you know. Follow us on the socials, and a special thanks to Lucky Duck for being our sponsor.
And thank you again, Julian. I have so much fun talking with you. I've done so many play tests with Julian, who's always cracking us up and singing and just having a wonderful time. So I miss that. I miss those days a lot.
Thank you. I can only give it back. Awesome. Have a great day.
Have a great day, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Bye. And stream.